Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Clemson MBA Innovative Leadership Speaker Series. We are thrilled today to introduce you to Craig Haydamack. Craig joined Milliken Company in July of 2014 and is the Senior Vice President for Human Resources and guides a global team of 140 HR professionals. Prior to coming to Milliken, Craig spent 18 years with Intel as Director of both IT and HR functions, managing a wide range of global functions, including IT strategic planning and global talent acquisition. He was also an instructor for Intel's Management and Leadership Development Program. Craig serves on several boards, including the Spartanburg Academic Movement, the USC Upstate Foundation, United Way of the Piedmont, and Spartanburg Chamber of Commerce. He has a BA and MA in economics from the University of California at Santa Barbara and an MBA from the University of Oregon, with several human resources certifications. Craig has been married for 25 years and has 4 daughters between the ages of 12 and 21, so a good girl dad here, including one of those daughters who just started at Clemson. He enjoys coaching their softball teams and volunteering with his church's recreational basketball program. And again, just on a personal note from me and the whole MBA team, as Dr. Pickett said, you have done so much for our students to invite us and bring us into Milliken for these days. And something that you always show us that makes us so proud, Craig, is the growing list of Clemson MBAs that are joining Milliken. So we're thrilled to have you join us today. Thank you so much.
Jamie, thank you. And thanks everybody for joining. I really appreciate the introduction. And I'm sorry we aren't able to do this together and enjoy a meal together, but hopefully soon we can do that. I know everybody's doing their best to kind of work from home, and so we'll just say today's meeting is a kids to work day and a dogs and cats to work day also, so they're all welcome to participate as we go through this. Again, we're really pleased to support Clemson. As Jamie said, by far our largest contingent of our employees are from Clemson in multiple, literally every function of the company, and we really appreciate the long-term partnership with the school. And I'm really pleased to have a chance today to share a little bit more of the company information with you all and talk a little bit about innovation and careers at Milliken. And at the end, I'm very happy to answer any question I can for you on any subject that you'd like to touch on. So I'll go ahead and share out my screen here. Good to go? Okay. All right. Well, again, good afternoon. This is actually a little aerial picture. If you haven't seen it, you've probably driven right by it. Our Milliken headquarters in Spartanburg. We actually have a 660-acre campus in Spartanburg right off Business 85. It's a nationally registered arboretum, and so we love hosting students and Clemson members at the campus, and we also welcome folks to come out and enjoy the grounds as well sometimes. So if you haven't been there before, we'd love to host you. There are 3 areas I'd like to touch on today. I'd like to first of all, spend a couple minutes and give you a little bit of an introduction to Milliken and what we do as context. And then we'll spend some time talking about innovation at Milliken. What does that mean? And I'll talk to you about sort of how we measure it and think about it and approach it. And then finally, I'd like to share a little bit of information about building careers and some, I guess, personal experiences and some experiences from our Milliken HR team about the best ways to build a career, especially for folks that are maybe finishing an MBA program and starting their career journey. So again, we'll touch on these 3 things and welcome questions along the way. So a little bit of background. We'll start with a little bit of background on Milliken. It was founded in 1865 as a general store, a single owner operator in Maine. And we're now actually in the 4th generation of ownership of the company and going into the 5th generation, and the 6th generation is actually being born right now. So we're a unique company, a family business that has been in business for 155 years. And something else that we're very, very proud of, you can see our flags at the bottom, is that one of our big focuses on the company, and hopefully you'll see some of this in the presentation today, is our focus on ethics and doing the right thing from a business standpoint and from a community standpoint. And each year the company applies for the Ethisphere review. We go through an audit We submit a gigantic application to an industry organization that reviews companies around the world for companies that meet the standards for something called the world's most ethical. And we're very proud. We're one of 7 companies left in the world that has won this every year since its founding. And so something that we really strive to each year. So again, we'll share a little bit more of that with you, but our approach is our business practices, our financial practices, how we manage and treat our employees, how we engage with the community, et cetera, the environment, are all areas that we're striving to set as high a bar as possible for ourselves. So a little bit about what we do. Milliken is just over 8,000 employees now. We're right about 8,100. We have 40 manufacturing locations around the world, 14 countries. We actually have salespeople in many, many more countries around the world. And we have over 11,000 products, which is pretty amazing, covering many, many different industries. And kind of our unofficial estimate is that a typical American could come in contact with a Milliken product 50 times a day or 50 times a week. It could be the water bottle you're drinking out of. It could be the shirt you're wearing. It could be parts of the car that you're riding in. It could be packaging in some of your materials. It could be the roof on your house. That we're really, in a lot of ways, an ingredient company where we're making textiles and chemicals and different components that go into many other products and services that folks are buying. We're even into components of fine chemicals and silicones that are going into computers now. So it's a company that has a very wide range and very wide impact, even though it's maybe not as well known from a branding standpoint as some others. Our company is really broken into 4 divisions that we run. The first one I'll speak to is the chemical division. And we do a wide range of sort of chemical additives and ingredients that go into a variety of products. For example, we have a small group that does colorants and that actually does color designs that are used in paints and seed colorings and Crayola markers and a whole range of different items. Our most common item that you probably have interacted with is we make called a plastic clarifier. So we actually, every time you have a plastic water bottle or Tupperware or any kind of product that has clear plastic in it, it has a few drops of the Milliken clarifier in there to actually make that plastic clear. And we also have additives that help make the plastic stronger. So you actually have to use less plastic to make a bottle by using this additional item to help strengthen it. Items that go into computers, into cars, a whole number of different areas. Our second division, it's actually our largest division from financial standpoint and from a personnel and from a location standpoint, is our textile division. And this is really, it's been part of Milliken since the late 1800s. And we have a wide range of textiles that have typically specialty engineering components to them. So for example, we will engineer and design an airbag, the textiles for airbags for cars. And we do a lot of engineering to make sure that airbag can stay intact for a long period of time. And it can inflate quickly and sort of catch the air and inflate, but then also deflate very quickly to protect the passenger at the same time. So a lot of engineering goes into something like that from a textile standpoint. We also have a big focus on fire resistant fabrics that are used by oil workers, electricians, firefighters, the military. And we also make items that go into textiles that are parts of layers of roofing tiles and layers of tires, even parts of duct tape. If you look at sort of the part of the duct tape that allows you to have strength one way but rip it the other way, we actually make that as well. So again, literally thousands of different textile engineered products in different areas. And the third division is our floor covering division. And we specialize in is commercial floor covering. And so this would be something like, for example, we put the carpet into Panther Stadium or into large commercial enterprises, into hotel chains, universities, et cetera. And we're really good at doing custom designs for floor covering with different colors and patterns and textures, and designing those to the look and feel that you need for your location. And also building something we walk right over and we don't think about is the entry system. And so we have different entry systems that allow you to sort of scrape and polish your shoes as you enter a building to help protect the carpet. And so a whole range of areas where we go out and work with large customers, commercial customers, and different organizations to help customize the floor covering to their needs. And then our fourth division, our newest area, is our healthcare division. And this is an area that is a big focus for us and a growing investment area for us. We have a number of different products here. One of the ones, if you watched the football game last night or as you watch it on Saturday night, is we make sports wraps that are used by a lot of football teams and different athletic organizations. They're used by hospitals to wrap bandages and by veterinarians. And we also have some specialized bandages that are used for really difficult, long wounds that take a long time to heal. And you're actually able to use those textile bandages, and you don't have to rewrap the patient as often. So it's helpful from a healing process and more comfortable to the patient as well. So this is definitely a new and growing area for us, and where we're making acquisitions and growing the business. So really 4 different lines of business. We consider ourselves a diversified industrial company, and we really run in sort of four different sort of divisions and business lines where we share common support around things like human resources and marketing and information technology and other areas that are sort of shared across the company. So a little bit more about Milliken and a little bit at a higher level. And I wanted to speak a little bit about our purpose statement. And I think especially those that you were in your MBA program right now and things like that, you're talking about the importance of a company's purpose statement and values. And it's important that a company understands what's important to itself, how it makes decisions, what factors it considers, and the kind of organization and culture that it wants to be. Our purpose statement is at the top of this is, together we strive to positively impact the world around us for generations to come. And I won't take you through the entire detailed story of this, but safe to say that every word of that purpose statement has been thought through and designed to focus on certain areas. A couple of things I'll highlight. The first word is together, and that means the importance of us as a strong team and organization, that we are an inclusive and diverse organization, and that we work well with our partners, with our shareholders, and with the community as well. So that together word is very important. It's very important. It's the first word for us from our connection to others. The other piece I'd highlight on this is where it says positively impact. And you think about a company, and you can take a narrow view that a company's sole purpose is to generate profits. And obviously companies do need to do that, and that's foundational. But we also want to ensure that our organization has a wider purpose and a wider impact, that the products that we're making help make people safer, they're helping support the environment, they're helping in education, et cetera, and that the company itself is a good corporate citizen and positively impacting the communities and where we live and work. So that positively impact item has a broader meaning for us. And the third piece of this that I'd highlight is the generations to come. And from our standpoint, we want this to be a company that remains family-owned and successful and growing for the long term. We would like to see the next 155 years of Milliken. And so we think about our investments and our decisions and our approach to the business. We're not focused on just quarter by quarter quick results, but we're thinking about this in terms of years and long blocks of times and decades and generations, and making decisions that will support our values and our business performance over that long term. So again, I think it's important as we kind of share our story of Milliken today and answer some of your questions. I think it's important to know a little bit about the company and a little bit about what's important to us and how we sort of view ourselves and view our place in the business community. The third piece I'd like to share with you, and this is something I'm personally really proud of the organization to be part of a group that does this, is Milliken, starting in 2019, is now publishing for our shareholders, publish our annual financial report, but we also are publishing and setting a sustainability report. And it really focuses in on our social responsibility and our contributions to the community and how we operate a business from a social responsibility standpoint. And so we've taken a number of goals in 3 categories around planet, product, and people goals that we've set for 2025 that are very much stretch, aspirational, challenging goals that push us to not only be a profitable, successful business, but to do so in the right way. So for example, from a planet standpoint, we're targeting how we reduce greenhouse gas emissions, water usage, and waste by 25%, how we get to a place where we're zero waste to landfill operation, increasing our use of renewable energy, and having zero environmental violations. And so these are challenging goals. And one of the things I like about this is that we didn't set goals that we knew how to achieve and that we knew that were easy to meet. We set goals that were going to stretch us and challenge us and frankly drive us to innovate in different areas. And so we have teams of people and environmental engineers and folks doing analytics to really understand and test and drive and push ourselves to hit these planet goals. We're also looking at our products in terms of how do we think about our products in terms of their understanding the full life cycle of that product, from the entire supply chain, where the raw materials come from, where the products go when they're no longer in use, and how we drive that forward. So not just looking at our specific point on the supply chain, but looking at the whole life cycle of the product. And that perspective is important for our true impact and footprint to the world. And obviously connects closely to those planet goals. So we're taking an aggressive approach to that. And we're also working with other plastics companies and scientists and universities, and we have a partnership with the National Geographic to bring together scientists and thought leaders from the types of industries that we work in about how do we, not just within Milliken, but how do we influence and support the broader business ecosystem to make advancements in these same areas. So, you know, we can do a lot within the walls of Milliken, but to really have the full impact and to meet the spirit of our purpose statement, we should be doing this with a wider community. So we actually, and if you're interested, you can actually go online and see some of the things that we were, some events and things that we're doing with National Geographic earlier this year, and some different articles in the last couple of issues of National Geographic talking about these areas. So welcome you to take a look at those things. And also from a social responsibility standpoint is how do we manage and support our people inside the company and outside. So we have a strong commitment to diversity and inclusion, and all the work that we do and the progress that we make there and the approaches that we take, we are freely and openly sharing with other companies across the region to help benefit them as well. We have a big focus on safety, especially given the complexity of our manufacturing, the environments we work in. That is a critical piece for us on a day-to-day basis. Maintaining the privacy of our employees and our customers and our partners, and then also setting goals around driving volunteer hours in the community and being a positive impact in the community as well. So again, this is an important part of the company. Again, I think looking at this, balancing not only our business interests and the financial performance, but our values performance at the same time. And our documents and reports on these are available out there for all of you to take a look at. You're welcome to go to milliken.com and take a look at those and learn more about those areas. So with that, that's a little bit about Milliken and what's important to us. And what I'd like to do now is shift towards talking about innovation. I know this is a key part of your speaker series, is how do you think about innovation? So I'm gonna share with you a little bit about how Milliken thinks about this and approaches it and measures it. I've got a couple of stories and examples for you, and also sharing a few things about what this year has driven from an innovation standpoint. How has this pandemic situation, what has it meant for our business, and how we've changed and adjusted and are approaching this situation. So very happy to share this story with you. The first part I'll share is, and actually we look forward to at some point, as Jamie mentioned, we do very much like to host the Clemson student group at Milliken. And when we do have those times together, one of the first things you get to see is called our innovation gallery. And each of the blocks on the tiles, you can see that the picture here, this actually is much longer than I can show you on a slide here, but each tile on the wall is a patent that Milliken has achieved and put into practice. The earliest one on the wall, actually, the very first block, I believe, is 1927, and it was an industrial laundry cart, so a very large laundry cart that could be used to carry thousands of pounds of textiles across a manufacturing site. And what we've done over time is those initial ideas build onto additional ideas and opportunities and different areas. And so throughout this history of the company, you see innovations around manufacturing processes, around textile engineering machinery, around chemistry, around how do you make more and more complex weaves and designs of textiles in different areas. And it's really fascinating to sit back and kind of look at this and walk the wall and see how one innovation and idea has led on to another and on to another one. And there's some great stories in there of different items that have come across. One of them ones I'll mention is again, it's amazing where sort of the innovative ideas come from, but we had a Milliken scientist at home during the holidays, several decades ago. They were wrapping presents. You take a pair of scissors and you kind of go across a ribbon. You make the ribbon kind of spool up and make a sort of a pattern in it. And the person thought, I wonder if we did that to our textile fibers, what would that do? And went in and tried it, and that actually turned into nylons at one point. And so invented nylons based on that idea. There's another story in here where the company was coming up with ways you'd have gigantic rolls of textiles, and they'd have to print information on there around the textile and the design and the customer and things. And then when that textile arrived, the customer would have to cut a lot of that material off, and it became waste, which we'd want to avoid. And so we had some scientists that came up with washable ink, which eventually turned into and helped contribute to Crayola washable markers that you see today. So there's many, many examples of how different ideas and little inspirations went into different products and built those over time. So for us, you start in 1927 with designing a industrial laundry cart, and our most recent innovations are around medical bandages and textiles and environmental solutions to recycling plastics and things like that. So our hope is that this innovation gallery will continue on far into the future. So a key piece around this is how do you create, I know one of the topics of the speaker series is how do you actually create an innovative environment and culture. And so there's a number of pieces that go into this that I'll share with you. And I've actually done our own history of the company and actually taken some polls and advice from some of our different PhD innovation leaders across the company to find out from them what really makes an innovative culture. And so I'll share some of that with you here now. One of the things that's important is to understand how do you measure innovation, and what are those key success measures you put in place for your organization to help drive the right behaviors in the focus areas. So these are some of the items that we use at Milliken to drive and to calculate innovation, and we have our different innovation leaders that measure these and share these and report on progress over time. The first one is something called the Innovation Vitality Index. And basically, you look at your revenue streams of your company over say a 2 or 3 or 5 year period, and you look at how much of that revenue has been coming from new products, new product introduction or service introductions that you have been doing. And obviously, the higher the rate of that sort of innovation to revenue ratio, the stronger your innovation pipeline is, and that you're actually recycling and growing and changing your product line over time to stay up with the needs of the company. So that vitality index is really important. A complementary metric to that is your gross margin from new products. And so again, are your R&D efforts and marketing and customer design work, are they able to generate new products that are valued and generating higher margins over time? And if those numbers are going down, that's a warning sign that your innovation engine is slowing down. You also look at your pipeline of projects and different research efforts and innovation efforts that are going on, right from the earliest idea to something that's in a prototype or a pilot or a pre-release phase into a release phase. And you start to look at how many of these ideas are making it through the pipeline from a concept to commercialization. And obviously not every item is going to make it through. Less than half, probably far less than half will make it through. But there does need to be a regular flow of new items coming into that pipeline and progressing through, and eventually items that are becoming commercially viable. And so I always think from Milliken and my previous company I worked at, it was always important to be able to step back and look at sort of literally a funnel map of projects and ideas and concepts that are moving through. And is your funnel full, and are items moving through it successfully over time? That's an important indicator of how effective your innovation culture is. And there's also another area, this is around your intellectual property and protection, and how much of the revenue of the company is in a product or service or a design or a technology that you have IP protection on, and where you have a patent in place. That obviously helps you, all that work that you've done to build something new to protect that and protect the revenue stream over a long period of time. And then the last one is one I think a lot of times gets overlooked, but asking your employees about the culture and how they feel as members of that culture from an innovation standpoint. And do they feel like it's an area where they can share ideas? Can they take risks? Are they encouraged to challenge areas and come up with new ideas? And that's really important, because that's where the innovation pipeline starts. If you don't have a culture that allows and encourages people to take on new challenges and take on hard areas, and sometimes you have to try something and fail and then learn from it and move on. You have to have a culture that supports those types of dynamics. Otherwise, your pipeline's not going to fill up, your patents aren't going to get filed, and your vitality index will go over time. So I think as we think about innovation, whatever type of organization you're in, these are the types of things to think about and consider to help make sure that you're building an organization that will grow and change and thrive over time. And one other item I want to share, and maybe not everybody will agree with this, and that's certainly okay, but a lot of times you talk to companies and different things I've heard, executives that I've heard that talk about that focus, that say that innovation is really just about products and services. And that's obviously critical core of this, but it's important that every area of the enterprise thinks about innovation in its own space, whether it's the IT group that can help advance a new technology that can help you connect with the customer. It might be a new analytics system that helps you get greater insights on your business. It could be an efficiency breakthrough. It could be innovating around how you manufacture and reducing your environmental footprint. It could be even your people practices and how you engage and encourage your people in different areas. So I think a company that is truly innovative looks at this on an enterprise basis, not just in one area. And whether you're in a customer service and support role, or in HR, or in some other support function of the company, there are opportunities to improve, make adjustments, to drive in new areas. And the leaders of those areas, as many of you are and will be in your careers, as you're running those different functions, it's important that you're always looking outside at where the trends are going, where the industry averages are going, what's best in class, and that you have a sense of where your function falls in that sort of competitive scale, and that you keep pushing things forward, and that's critical. So it's the product and service side is obviously foundational, but every area of the enterprise has a role in innovation in their own way. So I think that's an important perspective. So a couple of items that I'll share, and these are actually, and I mentioned we have a number of 100 plus PhDs across the company that are really working in innovation and R&D roles on a daily basis, and we have business managers and strategic marketers that are out on the front line trying to find new opportunities and to drive items forward. And so I took a little poll of those folks about what do they see as the most important factors for creating an innovative culture, an organization that is successful over the long term. And so there are a couple of themes that really came out in this that I think are important and could be applied to any organization. The first set of themes is really around the culture and the collaboration. It really starts with the people. And you have to create an environment where people have the permission to think differently, to raise ideas, ask questions, and challenge things. If people are worried and stressed about their own sort of career security, and are they going to say the right thing or the wrong thing, things like that, that stress will blocks the creativity and frankly blocks ideas and concepts from getting raised up to decision makers. And so really, especially from a leadership level, are you creating an environment where people have that freedom to share ideas and ask questions and be creative? And also recognizing folks that are in these spaces, that it takes some creativity and some courage to be in an innovative space, right? You have to be willing to ask questions and raise up an idea and take a risk once in a while. So that's really important. And again, from another one of the partners is that high trust culture that again allows you to take challenges, take risks, ask questions, raise ideas, and that you're not just looking at a narrow area, but that you're collectively looking at the larger purpose of your organization and what you're trying to achieve and drive something forward. And another piece that's really important in this is the collaboration outside of the company. And more, we have these integrated supply chains and value chains that are growing across multiple companies and across multiple geographies. I know Milliken is can't even count the number of external partnerships and relationships we have with suppliers and customers. And that ability to reach outside and collaborate and ask questions and listen to partners is really important to support that, that collaborative culture. So again, a couple of things to think about for yourselves and for the organizations that you're in and that you're leading. An additional one, excuse me, is around customer connections, and that critical ability to connect outside the company and to really listen and think about what your customers need. And there can be a pitfall in innovation sometimes where folks, let's say inside a company, will come up with ideas and products and concepts, but they're not necessarily connected to something that somebody needs and wants to pay for and that they value. And so it's really important that you can go out and listen to your customers, walk the floor with them, ask them what they need, what their experiences are, and really dig into those areas and to understand and sort of uncover those unmet needs. And what really sort of is the magic formula is you can take that unmet need and you can link it to something that your company is really good at and that you can build and you can create that stays a step ahead of everybody else. One of the leaders in our company had a great quote, said, you need to know your customers' customers. And so especially if you're an ingredient company and you're building something that goes to somebody else, which then they build for an end user, the more you can understand that end user, the better job you can work upstream to support their needs. So that's really, really critical. Another one, then another leader talked about on the right here is listen to the customer carefully and understand what the real issue is. So sometimes people will say, you know, I need this or I need that, but asking the question of what's really the problem you have, what's the concern, can you share a story with me, and really try to dig into what the real issue is underneath what somebody's asking for or what they think they need. In that case, you may actually get to a deeper need and a better service that really meets their needs and sustains over the longer term. So really that importance of listening, thinking, absorbing what the customer's needs and the partner's needs is critical, because then that gives you the framework and the sort of the landscape of where a valued innovation can come from. And then the third area that comes in, and this can be one that really, if it's not done right, can really get in the way of an innovative organization, is the leadership and decision making. And what's really critical is when you're starting down an innovative path on something, or trying to develop something new, or starting that sort of innovation pipeline, talk about the decision criteria they're going to use to what do we want to move forward, what will modify, and when is it time for us to shut down an idea and move on to the next thing. And what can happen sometimes is that the criteria and the goals aren't clear, and ideas can sort of drift on and on forever in a lab or in a design area, and they never make it to commercialization, but they also never get stopped, and those resources can't get reallocated to something that is maybe more impactful. And so I think it's really important that for decision makers and leaders, that when you're starting down these new innovative paths, as best you can, we can't have perfect foresight on everything, but as best you can, try to define what the goals are and the criteria and what you're looking for, so that if it does come time to approve something and move it forward, everybody's lined up. And if it's better to make a decision to stop work on something and to reroute those people to something else that it will be higher impact, that you can make that decision and avoid those situations where something just drags on and on forever without an end date. The other piece I think is really important is that when you're driving an innovation environment, not every idea is going to work ever. That has never happened for any organization. And really what you need to be good at is taking calculated, reasonable risks, and understanding that not everything is going to work. And when something isn't working, you pause and say, okay, this is not working. What did we learn from this? What can help us take a step forward? And let's pivot to the next idea. And so having leaders that are cognizant of the whole sort of landscape and the decision-making points and the status of those innovative ideas, and that are okay to pause and pivot when needed. And I think we need leaders that if you have a team that's going after something and they've done really good work, they've done the research, they've tried something, they've brought something together, even if it doesn't work, but they've given it the right due diligence and really given it their all, we need to recognize them, because there are still learnings and values in that allows us to move to the next stage. So it's important that leadership tone from the top around innovation when things work and when they don't work is right, because that then creates the culture and perpetuates the culture that allows people to move forward and taking new steps forward. And I think the other leadership item that's important that every organization balances that tension between the day-to-day immediate work and the fire drills that are happening, and reserving time to look at things for long-term innovation. If we completely pivot to the day-to-day only, we may get the very short-term results for that day, week, or that quarter, but over the long term, that's going to cost us the long-term success and viability of our organization, whatever that may be. And so it's really important that leaders think about that tension of how do you focus and set goals around the day-to-day success, but what are those resources and efforts and goals that you carve out and protect to ensure that some portion of your organization is working towards the long term and thinking about the next generation products and services and manufacturing capabilities and things like that, because that's really what supports that long-term success that everybody's looking for. So again, I think these are three areas. And again, when we talk to the folks at Milliken that are really living in this day in, day out from an innovation and challenge standpoint, these are the items that they've really highlighted as those key areas that make a difference for an organization. So again, I hope that's something that you all can reflect on and hopefully use in your company or a future role. I'll share two more here and then I'll pause and answer some of these questions. Another one that I think is pretty neat is, and you don't think about floor covering in a pandemic, but it actually can play a really important role. And you think about companies that are zoning and separating their physical spaces to keep people safe. Our designers in our floor covering division have come up with dozens of different carpet tiles that you can insert into your flooring to help be reminders about hygiene and social distancing. And you can actually see, and you're welcome to go take a look at this on our website, we have a whole new carpeting collection called the Social Factor that includes dozens of different symbols that you can use in different colors and textures. You can actually embed these different sort of social distancing hygiene items into the look and feel of your business, so they aren't super intrusive, but they actually sort of go with your environment. And we see these things, getting used very, very quickly, and frankly, will probably be with us for a very long time. So another good example of listening to the customer and building something that nobody would have thought of, eight months ago. And then one other example here, two other quick ones I'll share around, again, all things that have really come during this year is around using our clarifiers, or things we use for Tupperware and plastic bottles and things, and now applying those to face shields to help making clear face shields for folks to use. And then another good example of sort of innovation and collaboration, there's a company called Contech, also based in Spartanburg, that makes disinfectants for hospitals and pharmacies and things like that. Obviously, their demand is going through the roof, and so very quickly setting up a partnership with Milliken to help manufacturing those in a very quick amount of time. So, and these are some good examples of listening to the customer, recognizing the environment's changing, flexing your resources, not getting hung up on long decision processes and organizational structures, but just doing the right thing and going after those different areas. So. I have for Jeremy and Jamie, I have a number of questions here that have come up, so I'm going to pause and answer a couple of these. So give me one second, I'm just reading this here and I'll do my best to answer it. So one of the questions here was, for someone working for a smaller company with less resource staff, how do you suggest getting the management team on board with allocating the amount of focus and resources on innovative ideas versus analytics? So that's a great one. And that I think, especially the smaller your business is, the tougher that balance is between the day-to-day and the long-term needs of the business and those long-term investments. One of the things that I've seen at a couple companies that I have been at is, and this is hard to do, so I recognize it's hard to do because you got to do some engineering with your leadership team, but how do you get some time out with the leadership team to look at sort of their investment portfolio? And if you thought about a map, let's say your company has 100 people and you had a map of the 100 people and they got 40 hours a week and 52 weeks a year. If you think about that as an investment fund, how are you spending that investment fund? And sometimes I've seen where you kind of mapped out and say, we're spending 40% of that time on customer service. We're spending 30% of our time on fixing quality issues. and we're only spending like 3% of our time on the new product development. And I've seen sometimes with leadership teams, when they actually kind of step back and visually see their portfolio of how they're investing their time across the organization in different areas, sometimes that can really motivate leadership teams to think about how they're spending their time and where they want to reallocate if a company's spending more time fixing quality issues than they are on innovative products, that's something that you want to flip-flop. So I've seen that, and I've seen HR teams do that, where they really kind of analyze where time's spent, because a lot of times companies don't really see that, and leaders don't see that, and when they see the actual picture of it in the big picture, that can be pretty influential for them. So that's one technique I would offer there. Let me go back to a couple of the questions here. The question is, it sounds like Milliken identified a need to change the learning culture that was in place. What helped identify that need? What would you say has been most impactful in fostering a learning environment that is open to risks and failure? It's a great question. I think there's a number of things. It's a great sort of HR question. There's a number, I think, layers that go into creating an innovative culture. It's not just one thing, but I think it's almost like a layer cake of different items. One of the things, like in our case, we talk about our purpose and values and making sure that that is clear and communicated. If that's not visible to your employees to begin with, nothing else is going to matter. So that is a necessary but insufficient step. There's also a layer in this around how your managers and leaders view innovation and risk-taking in the company, and the kind of managers and leaders that you want to build in the company, and that they understand your definition of innovation, they understand your definition of risk-taking and what that means, and how does a leader practice that in the environment. I think one of the things that we recognize that every single person has a different sort of risk tolerance. Some of us are much more safety, security oriented. Others are naturally more risk takers. And you get in any team, you're going to have that full spectrum of different personalities and styles. And so talking about sort of what the baseline is for your leadership group and your management group around those topics is important to kind of establish a baseline. There's also other pieces that need to be done around, like when you set goals for employees and where you're setting a specific deliverable for somebody. And then there are times where you say, I'm going to set a goal for you to explore and challenge in this area. And your goal is to explore and discover this. And you're clear that where you're sort of expecting a very specific hard deliverable on something. And there are times where you say, this is an area that we want to explore and research, and your goal is to really get informed and bring this back. So setting goals to the organization. It's also, there's two other things I'll mention quickly on that one. One is maybe the most important thing of all in this is, how does your leadership team handle a failure or a miss or something that didn't work out? And if the leader says, we learned and we understand, and thank you, I appreciate what you've done, and here's the things that we can take away that make us better, and we're going to take another step, that leadership behavior reinforces that culture. If you have leaders that do the exact opposite, they are very negative, they may publicly shame, bully, whatever, the team that worked on that, and they set unrealistic expectations for, that every innovation risk-taking item is going to deliver, that is going to cause people to draw inwards, and they're going to be much less likely to take risks. So if there was one thing I'd say is how an organization handles a failure or a miss or a challenge, that's what really sets the tone for an organization. The last one I'll just mention, a quick one, is one of the things that we do at Milliken, I know other companies do, is they want to formulate that they actually recognize innovation, they recognize research, they recognize challenges in different areas. We do some corporate awards that we make very visible around what we're looking for in terms of challenging people and supporting them to take risks and innovate in different areas. So it sort of helps bring those things together. So again, a lot of different areas of that help bring a culture together. So good deal. Well, let me hit, I've got a number of questions here. Why don't I hit a little bit more, and then I'll do a few more questions here just to balance. One of the things I also wanted to share with you, we talk about an innovative organization right now in this pandemic space. I also want to talk a little bit about what does the pandemic mean for us on an individual basis during this time, and how do we have to sort of adjust and be agile in this area, because our work is very different, and it's presenting different challenges. And I'll say from an HR standpoint, I worry over time that the longer that we don't have a choice, we have to for our health, we have to socially distance and things, but over time it gets harder and harder to keep people engaged and driving, in these virtual environments. And so I think there's a few things I think are important to keep in mind for all of us, whether we're a student or a professional right now. One of the things I think is really important, one of the things that we lose in this virtual environment, or can lose, is the ability to whiteboard, to go in a room and grab a marker and start sketching. And a picture says 1,000 words. And so I think teams that are doing well, somebody on that team, or maybe even a team, can actually pull up a blank PowerPoint slide and you can draw and sketch and start to visualize things that you're talking about. It sounds like a small thing, but it can be really impactful and help teams, get as close as they can in terms of their full environment. Another one is being present in the collaborative environment, and you can see some teams where we get everybody on the screen and they're active, and you can tell they're their body language is fully engaged. And you get other times where everybody's off camera, and that's a big indicator that people are multitasking and are disengaged. And so I look at that. It may be a little silly, but it's actually something we're doing in HR Group Milliken, is when we have our team meetings, we have different background theme days, whether it's your favorite extreme sport or your pet or whatever, and putting backgrounds up, and actually helps people be engaged and be interested and kind of learn a little bit more at each other. So think about ways to kind of keep yourself and your team engaged. You need to take the time to be more frequent, purposeful, intentional in your one-on-ones, because we miss that hallway time. And also be proactive, engaging with teams. Don't drift away. It's easy to say, I'm working remotely and I got all my email done today, so today was successful. But did you really engage with others and talk and be interactive in something beyond just the tasks is important. And another one I think is really important is language and goal clarity, right? We can, when we're together and talking about things, it's easier to read that body language and get connected and get aligned on things. It's harder remotely like this. So being really careful about and clear on, if you're in a meeting or working with a team or another individual, at the end of that meeting, let's just recap what we said and let's write it down and make sure we're clear on those things. And it'll frankly save you a lot of time and thrash later on. And the other piece I'd say is attitude is really important right now. And I think we see certain teams that are flourishing right now, frankly, and taking these challenges on, and it's around their attitude. I think about the examples we shared from Milliken around our healthcare textiles, for example. They didn't worry about barriers and organizational hierarchies and things like that. They got together as a group and they went after it, and within weeks put together a solution, and we're engaging with the federal government, others, on getting those things done. So I think right now we obviously have to manage our budgets, but don't get too hung up on artificial constraints and hierarchies and things like that, and be flexible in what you're doing, what your priorities are, what your role is. Sometimes those things are out there that you have to flex around. I know we have a number of people in our organization that are doing work that none of us could have imagined 6 months ago, and being flexible and adapting to that is really important. And recognizing there is an opportunity to learn here and contribute in different ways. I think that we have talked, and this whole situation this year for everybody is very unfortunate, but there are some little, try to find some silver linings in it. I think sort of teams that have broken down barriers and been more creative and tried different things in new ways in the face of this pandemic situation, those kind of behaviors are ones that we'd like to hold on to and keep even in normal times. And so thinking about, there are some things that we can do and hopefully carry forward with this on the long term. So, right. Let me, I want to talk a little bit about careers, but let me just take another question or two here, and then that I will answer. Question I just got here: how is the innovation and general culture different between Intel and Milliken? Well, that's a really good question. Those are in some ways they're very, very similar. In other ways, they're worlds apart. I think one of the things that Milliken is a balance. I'd say Milliken is a little bit more. It's more on the traditional side of the scale, a little bit more on hierarchy and a little bit more formal decision making. Intel, being a Silicon Valley company, is probably almost too far to the innovation extreme, where everybody is working on ideas all the time, and there's so many ideas flowing around that you really don't have control of the number of ideas and who's working on what and the resource allocations. I think it's almost like a little bit of an innovation free-for-all, which can be a challenge as well. So I think, somewhere between those two companies is the happy medium of allowing the full creativity to be out there, but also you're purposeful in trying to direct that creativity and those innovations in certain areas and focus on things that are really impactful for the customers. I think at Intel, I always remember we had a whole lot of technologies that were built that never saw the light of day, were really cool in the lab, but never turned into something that would generate funds. And so I think those are they're sort of two ends of the spectrum. And I think, again, finding that balance of innovative culture, listening to the customer, and having good, thoughtful decision-making on what to focus on, that's really key to balancing those things out.
Greg, I hate to jump in, but we're already at 1 o'clock. So I just want to kind of set it up to say that was the fastest hour of our life because it's been so wonderful. But let's take the next 5 minutes to either work through the building the careers or answer a couple more questions, because obviously we are enjoying this so much. So I just wanted to give you the 5-minute warning.
Do that. Perfect. Thank you very much. Let me hit the last couple of career items. This is great. And then we'll take any other questions. But I have some, if I could speak back to my younger self on some things that I would have thought about career-wise, and especially coming out of business school. And I've had kind of a interesting career path from working for universities and working for a agricultural bank and Intel and Milliken, so in some different areas. A couple things of advice is, number one is, it's becoming more important every day, is know your technology and using data and telling stories with your data. I think that's one of the biggest differentiators, especially for new MBA graduates, that ability to use data and tell stories really separates them because they're able to really influence leadership. Lots of listening. 2 ears and one mouth was a coaching I got a long time ago, but lots of listening is important in absorbing different areas. Be conscious of being a good teammate is really important. We all of us sort of build a personal career brand as we go along. And it's critical that we want to build a brand as a teammate, somebody that others want to work with, that does their part, that shares credit, because that opens more and more doors for you. And just a couple other I'll mention here is, don't shy away from messy, complex challenges. Those are actually where the most learning comes from, and oftentimes the most career growth and leaps forward come is after you've been the one, or your team's been the one, to take on something really messy and complex and challenging. I'd say the importance of diverse teams. If you have don't have a diverse, inclusive team, you get stuck in groupthink very, very quickly, and that has proven itself over and over again. The importance of diversity in all its different forms is important to a successful team, and frankly, to be a successful business and to have a great, fulfilling career. I'll just hit a couple of others as well, and then we'll pause there. Actually, just some items talking to our HR recruiters and our HR team about what really makes, what is key to success for somebody entering the workforce or coming into a new company. And regardless of the roles, these are some of the behaviors that really make a difference. That problem solving, creating solutions, challenging ideas. Somebody coming in new to a company, in that first 2 years, you have a clean, fresh, unique view on the organization, and that's a superpower that you want to use and ask those questions at that time. That willingness to communicate to all levels, whether you're talking to somebody in the hallway, whether they're a partner, somebody that works for you or above you, that ability to be comfortable and speak to different folks is really critical. Don't be too locked in on one job title. If you told me, I thought I'd work for a university, and then I was standing in a farmer's field doing financing, and then at a technology company and doing HR in the South, you never quite know. And if you're too locked in on one specific career path or narrow job or title you want to go to, you may be shutting yourself out from a lot of other great opportunities. So do that. Again, that willingness to listen, that positive attitude, inclusive collaborator, that is probably the most important thing in terms of building your personal brand and advancing your career over time. Don't be the person that shies away from work, that sort of disappears into the background when there's a challenge out there. We can't take on unlimited work items, but be the one who volunteers and helps out at times, and that is a big, important part of building your brand and helping out in different areas along the way. So again, you do those things, regardless of your path or your focus area. I think these items will serve you well and lead to a very, very long and successful and satisfying career. So So I'll pause there. Lots more information about Milliken online if you're interested, and I'd love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn as well that would be interested, and hope you check out the company. And we hopefully, when this pandemic's done, we'd love to welcome you out to the campus as well. So